Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast. Before we get going, poor work intake equals out of control. Out of control means high stress, you get less done. It's not good. Mastering Work Intake by Jeremy Willets and Tom Cagley is the path to bring order out of chaos. Buy a copy today, J. Ross Publishing or Amazon. The Software Process and Measurement Cast is on vacation for the next few weeks. Until then, we're revisiting some of the fabulous panel discussions we've had during the last 19 years. We'll be back on June 21st. We're looking forward to continuing the conversation. Today, Spamcast 788 is our annual panel featuring most of the podcast regulars. Jeremy Berriault, Keis Kostaqi, Jon M. Quigley, Jeremy Willets, and me, appearing in the role of the ringmaster. Tony Timbol and Susan Parente, regular contributors, were unable to join. We missed them. It's that time of year, and there were conflicts. Maybe I should move the annual panel to February. No one is busy in February, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, where it's a very cold month. During this year's panel, we talked about using AIs in coaching, working in the office, John's tent, and we took a look into 2024. This is a long podcast, so I'll keep the other chit-chat down to a dull roar. Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast annual year-ending panel. And we will start year 18 this year. With us today, let's go by last name.
Jeremy Berriault, a contributor with the QA Corner on Spamcast.
Haven't we renamed that, by the way?
Oh, I think we'll probably have to.
I think I did last time. Excellent. Jeremy's been, how long have you been on the cast, Jeremy?
I think we're going on just after 10 years now. I think we met in 2013. That's when I started.
I think that means that you're up next, Keis.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's Keis Kostaqi from Northwestern Medicine, and I'm also a contributor to the podcast. And I think it hasn't been a year yet, Tom.
Yeah, no, it hasn't. It hasn't. And yeah, you're the newest on the block, so welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Quigley, are you connected yet? I guess not. I think that means it's your term, Mr. Willets.
I think I qualify as the other Jeremy Willets. I think I met Tom on the job in roughly 2018.
He was the cool kid, by the way.
I'm still surprised by that. I'm not a podcast contributor at all, but Tom and I are writing a book. We've written a book. We turned it into the publisher. It's coming out in early January, so we're very excited by that.
Well, yeah, we are. And I think what we're trying to finish off the web added value. Doesn't he call those waves?
Yes.
I saw that we got a text or an email from our publisher who pointed out that in the contract we had to give all this extra web value added stuff. And he called it a wave. And I'll be honest with you, I saw a wave and I said, wave, that's the file that when we do a recording, and for the podcast, it goes into a WAV file. It's like, what are we doing with WAV files? So it wasn't that. Mr. Quigley is still trying, I think. And I'm getting all sorts of interesting text messages, which I won't read because I think
Any profanity?
Make it less business safe.
Is it symbol induced?
Okay, before we dive in, and because I want to cover a couple of topics today, and I think Susan Parente will drop in as soon as she can. How was 2023 for everyone as Agilists?
I can start, I guess.
New kid gets a start.
I can start, I guess. So for me, I learned a lot. I discovered new things, and I'm looking forward to more learning and discovery for 2024.
So you went to the big conference too this year again. That's two in a row. Any surprises in terms of Agile in the workplace, or at least in the marketplace?
Well, what I saw at the conference from the previous year was a shift in more of a human behavior and mindset type of topics rather than framework driven. So I think maybe that's something new that all the companies and organizations hopefully are trying to push more of a mindset perspective rather than a framework perspective.
I think we're going to go back to micromanagement personally, but so who wants to go next? What did you see in 2023, Mr. Willets?
For me, it was, I think, an incredibly rewarding year personally. Getting a chance to speak in Detroit with you, Tom, was definitely one of the highlights, and getting to spend time and see other, fellow travelers on the Agile circuit was excellent. Sharing stories and food and drink with everybody was great. Not to say nothing of like knocking out the book and having that be queued up and ready to go for 24. I think in our industry, and particularly in our career path, I think a lot of our colleagues are out of work right now, unfortunately. So I think in the wider industry, I think our jobs are very much in flux as organizations tighten their belts and decide that they maybe don't need people like us in their organizations for whatever reason.
Maybe because we're not measuring productivity.
That could be it.
Mr. Berriault.
For me, I guess, for personally, definitely a lot of fun, I guess. Got to speak at Agile 2023, probably the biggest conference and the biggest room I've ever spoken. A lot of learning came out of that. I'm about 3/4 of the way of my second book, hopefully getting that done by the end of this year. And working on next year, hitting the ground running in the next couple of weeks.
I talked to Vinny Gill this week. Vinny is a Agile coach, Australia / New Zealand / Italy / lives in Edinburgh. I think that's where she really lives. And all the rest of those were, as you put it, Mr. Willets, they were just fellow travelers kind of thing. So Vinny's been talking, and we work together on the Agile Alliance Code of Ethics initiative. And so Vinny's of the opinion that many coaches aren't actually doing anything to actually enhance the delivery of value. They're doing a lot of other things, but it isn't the delivery of value that they're enhancing. And therefore, if we are struggling with the economy even a little bit, that's problematic. How do we react to that?
For me, I guess up here in Canada, I'm the northern guy up here. My observations from a coaching perspective, especially in Agile coaching, is a lot of organizations kind of twisted the way what an Agile coach should be doing and what they do. A few organizations I've seen, they treat Agile coaches as program directors. They don't really coach any teams. They just kind of organize a bunch of teams to make sure they can get stuff done on time. For me, and that's one of the struggles I had to go through, talking with a couple organizations to work with them, was they wanted me to come in and do kind of, here's our program, we want you to run it. It's like, well, but you have all these teams, they can do this. I will help them through, make them better, make them produce, and help them become more efficient and effective. But outside of that, like, it's the teams that will run everything going through. But I think that's probably one of the big struggles. And I think that's why they say Agile coaches don't produce any value, because everyone's getting confused as to what they should be doing, or they're getting bastardized.
I guess the question then becomes, is there a communication, right? That's the whole point of coaching and working with teams. Do you have communication in what is happening? What is actually happening? What is the root cause? And when this coaching conversation started, were you in alignment of what the expectation was? Did you discuss those things in the beginning from both parties, from a company perspective, or organization perspective, and from a coaching perspective? So having those conversations first and understanding why do organizations think that there is no driving value? what is the behind the scenes for that?
I think the label Agile Coach helps us, but it also hurts us. It's amorphous enough that we, as the people doing the job, get to interpret it as we see fit sometimes. But a lot of the time, the people that employ us have their own picture in our heads about what we are and what we do. I think I've definitely come across organizations that think the Agile Coach is a mystical unicorns and rainbows kind of creature that sails in and somehow avoids all accountability, yet picks up a healthy paycheck. And a lot of what I've been trying to do in my daily work is to demystify that job title and tie it directly to specific behaviors, specific roles, and specific deliverables and outcomes. But that's only in my context and my perspective.
Well, Jeremy, don't you think that there are a lot of people who, go to a class over a weekend, have never actually been an Agile coach, and then get a little certificate and say, I have no experience, but I am an Agile coach, which is an extremely senior thing. Don't you think that they want it to stay mystified?
I think there's a degree of truth to that. Yes, that's one of the major challenges with the certification mill that exists in our industry. You have people who graduate a class, whether it's a weekend class or a 2-day on the clock class, and they have the certificate that says, I'm now this, I'm qualified to do this. And they could take that piece of paper, and depending on the employer and depending on who's on the interview panel for that employer, that person may believe every word they say and quickly snatch them up and hire them.
I think it might be those things. And yes, I'm here, Tom. we have no video because this machine doesn't have the video, but I got fed up with that point of sale over there, aka POS.
we understood what POS stood for,
and it's not point of sale.
Should be POC, Pride of Cleveland, but that's okay.
Those things are true, I think, but for me, I think also true is it doesn't matter who you hire, and it doesn't matter what they have for skills if your culture is not, the company's culture is not of have certain attributes to it, and I'm sure that the attributes are much longer than I could go through here. We all probably have a pretty good idea of what those are, but just because the company hierarchy wishes to have things come out faster with greater value, we'll throw the word around. We'll hire somebody with those certs without knowing how they came up in the world that would maybe give them a perspective that would make their coaching valuable. And for me, that's a big hurdle. Even when they're hiring you, you're not going to know that until you get in the door, and then you realize, yeah, they said one thing, but the way they act is altogether different, and it's going to make this whole value proposition difficult, if not impossible.
Okay, so now
my southern 2 cents.
That's fair. That's fair. I can put my y'all on. Let's shift a little bit, because part of what I wanted to talk about today was the ethics of using generative AI as part of what we do as Scrum Masters, Agilists, Agile leaders, Agile development, whatever, right? Whatever word you want to slap on what we do, right? Helping get more value out. What are the ethics? Is it ethical to buddy up to Bard? By the way, I like Bard a lot. If you haven't tried it, you ought to. Or, ChatGPT 3.5, 4, whatever version that you're using. Should we all be doing that?
I've used it, and I hopefully have done so ethically. It's a great research tool, which you can't bank on what you receive there. You're going to have to vet it, and a lot of times you're going to see stuff that's not very helpful, not even accurate. I asked it some stuff about a SAE for Society of Automotive Engineers documentation or testing standards on a particular thing, and it cited a standard, and I looked the standard up in my catalog, and that standard either didn't exist or it had nothing to do at all with the thing that I was asking about. On the other hand, I had a customer ask me about what they could do differently to reduce their cost of production. They had an aluminum consumable in their processes, and they were looking at one part, a set of consultants, actually a company, to look at what the procurement avenues were. Can I get aluminum cheaper someplace else? Or what is my should cost model, and how can I ensure that those suppliers are actually producing or giving me a quote that's kind of close to that? I chose another avenue. I went over to ChatGPT and did a lot of research on, punching stuff in and asking it questions, and then adding more depth to the questions and asking for particular applications. And there was a substitute material. Now, I don't know if it would work entirely in their application, but there were applications. I eventually could do that research and external research from ChatGPT, look at other people that do these things, and there was a substitute material. Now, their application may have been so specific that this acrylic wouldn't work for them, but it was a starting point for some other sets of explorations. Cool. So for me, that's pretty reasonable to use it in that particular way.
Okay. How about the rest of y'all?
For me, I've used ChatGPT, and I use it more to help get ideas for me to build on and formulate myself. So I'll ask it questions. I'll forward through. To me, I see it as no different than Google. Actually, I think it's a little bit better because at least it can kind of help me point in the right direction.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, to me, at least it helps me with my research. And I'm sure some of us gone through Google, found a meme or anything like that, did a copy and then pasted it somewhere else. To me, I just use that I don't do a straight copy and paste. I think Tom, one of our friends, wrote a blog where someone just did a copy and paste from ChatGPT, but actually copied the actual bottom line that shows that it was generated and pasted it onto a blog. To me, I would never do something like that. Like, I have my standards when I write my blogs that this is me that's writing it. So I would never do something like that. But maybe I would go into it and say, hey, okay, give me some ideas or help me rewrite. I'll take a sentence, and to me, I don't see a flow. I'll ask it, okay, make this flow, make it more engaging. Take that and then see some of the ideas from that, and then rewrite my blog or my sentence or anything else that I'm writing to make it more engaging and make it more in my voice so that I understand it.
I see your head nodding, Keis.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. I've used it. I like the way that you can use it to reword what you've been writing, right? If you've been using the same word multiple times, or if you're going out in tantrums, and now is just trying to keep it clean and
crisp.
crisp.
Isn't that what a thesaurus is for, though?
It is. It is one of the sources. It helps you with the language, though. Sometimes you're just stuck and you're like, I don't know how to say this, and that's where you're struggling with things. And it really helps formulate that for you. But I know we've talked about ChatGPT, but thinking about DALL-E, the imaging as well, the imaging side of OpenAI, you can use it for, training materials rather than copying an image from Google or something. You can put something and say, create an image for me that is this and this and that based on what training material you have. So you can use it for that as well. I think that's beneficial. I think we have to be using AI responsibly and not let it take over. It's a supplement to human capabilities. It's not something that should just completely take over, and we should stop engaging our brains to write something or produce something. I'm
gonna have you hold on to the word "have to." Remember that. Before you jump in, John, Jeremy?
I think I'm going last in part because I've probably spent all of 15 minutes playing with these tools that you all have talked about. I don't know what that says about me. I think if you're thinking bell curve terms, I'm in decidedly the laggard category.
Hopefully nobody on this call thinks that any of us, if you were to use any of us, we would define a normal curve.
Nice, Tom.
But when you
also facts.
I've been tested.
It probably says something about me too, that when I saw you drop this question in an email to prepare us, my mind raced to unethical things that you could do with this particular tool. I didn't think about the positive stuff. I thought immediately about the negative stuff. And so I think the stuff that ran through my head were things like one of these newly minted agile coachy people, that go for a weekend class. Hey, you know what? They've got ChatGPT pulled up in their other monitor. And anytime they have a scenario that they encounter, it's just they're leaning on that full time to help them all the time in their daily work. And I think that, to me, seems borderline ethical. The other scenario I thought of I've actually heard about this happening is for people who maybe are not as well versed in agility. They get guidance from an agile coach or a scrum master, and they fire up ChatGPT on their own and check and see what the tool says and parse that against the guidance they got from the actual human. And I think in some cases we run the risk of, the people that we work with believing the machines over the people.
It's context dependent. The machines are probably not cognizant. Yep. They are not cognizant to start with. Their machines, and they're certainly not aware of all the uniqueness of this particular incarnation.
It depends on what you embed before you ask the question.
And you learn that you can't just ask the question kind of raw. It's like a spec when you make a query. You have to put a lot of, okay, I want to know about this. I want to include this. I want to exclude that. Whatever those are, you're writing it's my experience with it. Yeah. And then what you get from the prompt, you realize, well, that was an obviously trash prompt because what they gave me is nothing that I'm interested in. So I got to refine this. In fact, I'm reading a book called Prompt Engineering, and it sounds like it's a quick to market thing, but it's not really that at all. And I wouldn't call it engineering, being an engineer myself. I think it's not quite that.
You are. Were any of you allowed to use calculators when you went to school?
For some things.
Yeah.
Not English, obviously.
Some things, yeah.
You can make your calculator say words in English if you type a bunch of numbers and then turn it upside down. You can make it.
I know what the words that is, and that's usually not the.
That's
Hello?
grade 8.
Hello?
No, that ain't the word.
And it'll post this weekend on the podcast. I interviewed a gentleman named Kevin Serace, and he's on the board of directors of RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, which is a really fine school, engineering school. And the argument they're having on the board is whether or not they can try to ban students from using generative AI or not. And the answer is, at least in his mind, the answer is no. Our job, because it is going to be expected. I go to the have to, right?
Yep.
Keis used the term have to. Arguably, right, if you're a coder today, if you're not using a coding assistant, which is a generative AI, then you're probably 50 to 100% less productive than a coder that uses a co-pilot. And there are a number of them that are out there. And so therefore, could you go to a job interview and say, well, no, I find it unethical. I don't use co-pilots.
I'm here about inefficiencies. I'm here to drag your bottom line down.
So the answer is, right? His answer is, we need to teach people how to do prompting because industry is going to expect it. In case you use the term have to, I would suggest that before the end of 2024, all of us will be more actively using generative AIs. I'd argue it's unethical if we don't use generative AIs, especially that person who went away and got qualified to be an agile coach and very frankly had zero experience. If they aren't asking for some other, whether it's a human being mentor or a AI mentor, then yeah, they're just stealing money from a company. Them's fighting words. By the way, I have written whole blog entries, draft, using generative AI. I have no qualms with that. And then
I'll say I have a book outline that I'm ruminating on that my first stab was draw me an outline for a book about, n number of pages, a self-published kind of 50 to 100 page thing on Bayesian statistics applied to project management with a whole bunch of embellishments around it. I copied it and moved it off to the side. Oh yeah, man. That's what I write. That's all I write, Tom.
How many books have you written, John?
Oh, it's with including the two or three other ones that are in the pipeline, it's going to be 20. And yeah, that's how I pay for this mansion I live in.
Is it ethical that we would just walk away from it?
If I can say something here, maybe an analogy. I don't know, Tom, you have white in your hair, and Mr. Willets, I think you're in my same boat. I would be able to say, back in the day, we had to read maps to get around. And you actually had to read a map. You'd take the interstate, you get into the town, and you're looking at the little details on the map. Okay, 3 streets from now should be this street. We're going to make a right on that. That's how I found my way to guitar stores in Raleigh from Spring Lake, North Carolina. Now we have phones doing that. How many people do you think are capable of actually reading a map, keeping the orientation correct because of phone and GPS systems just routing you there? I'm thinking that skill is atrophied at best and maybe extinct in many people, including myself. I don't use it very often. I wonder how good I could do it now.
There were a couple of places when I was in Iceland that there was no connectivity whatsoever. So, yeah, I actually had to remember how to use a map. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember how to do the offset on a compass, depending on what latitude or longitude you're at, but there you go.
That's a bit serious. But the example is more to say, as we get these tools to help us do things, they are going to not augment our skills. They are going to replace any experience and skills we have. Yeah.
How many on this call have done long division in the last month? Jeremy
I have young kids.
Ah, okay.
That's cheating. That's not fair.
Me was a couple months ago with my kid.
Keis?
Not in the last couple of months, no. But I'm also an engineer by background, and I did college in Albania, which back in 2013, they were using Russian books from the 60s to teach us math and, equations and all of that. And they wouldn't allow us to use a calculator taking our exams. So coming here to the US, everything is like automated. You have technology and all of that. And it's not like your brain stops working, but you don't have to put so much effort into it anymore, because now you have this, like you called it, a co-pilot, right? That is helping you. So I don't know. I don't know. Is it unethical that we don't use it? I don't know.
What is the expectation from business at this point?
I think the expectation from the C-level is that every company has to be doing something with AI. And if you're not doing something with AI, you're falling behind. Whether that's the reality of the situation or just the perception, I think that the C-level at every company believes that. And so I don't think anybody's going to have a choice but to familiarize themselves at least a little bit with the tools in the coming year or years.
You think it's AI that they want, or they want more value out?
They're looking for results. A particular set of results,
More value out. Like to John's point, when he brought up he used AI to help out with getting the outline, which would be faster to get an outline for a 2-day workshop to at least get you started, or to sit in front of your computer and try to think of that outline and work your way through it. If I can do that on ChatGPT, at least get the outline started, and then I can build from that. Saves myself probably like 4 or 5 hours.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't even want to guess what it would have taken me to just handcraft this thing. And because I put prioritization and what is valued by people searching and things like that into my prompt, I ensured that I wasn't actually fabricating what I only thought would be what people would want to know about this particular thing, which from a market perspective might actually help me get outside this tent and get into a shed.
I got to remember what was happening at 31 minutes, 48 seconds in, because that is That's great advice. That's interesting in terms of using prompts to get better value out of the tool. I know at least 4 companies now. I talked to their CTOs, so bear grain of salt because I've never seen their work, that all claim that they can embed code, a wide variety of code, including Microsoft, and generate all of the unit tests in executable code.
Huh.
I don't think. I think that might be only partially true at best. I'm guessing I'd like to know what they call unit tests. Is it the thing according to the requirements and specifications, or what? That'd be my first start. I can't imagine that's entirely true, but it might be entirely true. They believe that.
For me, when I was in the corporate world and I was getting vendor calls left, right, and center, I would have automation tool companies come in and say, we can automate 100% of your test cases.
BS.
and they'd be quite surprised when I turn around saying, how can you do that? Most companies can't even hit 70%.
Well, again, this is unit test. They all state that they're getting closer on end to end. What we're dealing with, especially with AIs, is just large language models. So if they take all of the requirements documents, they take all of the code, why can't they?
Okay. If you're going to call it that, then maybe that's true. They actually can do that. But for me, as a testing person, that's actually about 1/3 to 1/2 of what you should be doing when you test the product. So,
John, we're at least 3 of us on this call probably have test tattooed somewhere on their body.
Scars.
Yeah, and that's probably what the tattoo is made out of. Yeah, the reality is we know that there's more, but let's face it, how much of that grunt? Well, I remember sitting in a court of law doing expert testimony, listening to somebody say that it's malpractice if a developer is doing their own unit testing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's just crazier than heck.
Oh, that's just crazy. It still happens, and people think it's right, but I'm like, oh, my God.
But regardless, right? Regardless. So if I can knock that part off, I know where the big bottleneck is, at least on the coding side. It's testing. Yeah. It always has been.
Yeah. And one thing good about a tool that does do all the requirements testing, that means your experts at testing can perform some stochastic testing and some acceleration testing around around these fuzzy borders, maybe go past the borders that the requirement spec will not, and therefore the test case associated with the particular line item in the requirements will not achieve. Nobody knows. Nobody's even asked the question if you don't go out there and test.
So while us as Agile coaches are, one of the responsibilities of an Agile coach, a Scrum Master, is to actually enable and help the team actually deliver value. If we're not using AI and they have to use AI to be productive, aren't we superfluous to requirements at some point?
I hope not. I'm not ready to quit.
Well,
in spite of my gray hair,
is right. We have to stay and you figure out and use and apply the tools. And I think ethically, if we want to throw our families in there, I think ethically we have to. Oh well,
if you don't, you're going to be leaving like to the other Jeremy's point. Jeremy 2 will go up. I think that's what we did last time. I was Jeremy 1, he was Jeremy 2. But to Jeremy's point, he's like, if it saves time, if it takes we have to do it. If not, we get left behind. Like the companies that don't use it, they feel they get left behind. If we don't use it, then someone else is, and they're going to get the work. I'm not, or they're going to show the value, and I'm going to have a hard time trying to explain how I'm going to get the value by me sitting in front of my computer for hours on end.
Yeah, especially if the quality of your work's not appreciably better than the quality of the work that comes out of a chat. And given that you can do all this prompt engineering, maybe that's going to be a difficult proposition.
Prompt engineering. New thing. So when we talk again at the end of 2024, perhaps we can determine whether or not we have all added prompt engineer to our resumes.
There's got to be a certification, Tom. It's probably it's probably a one-day thing. There's got to be a one-day class. Maybe the AI teaches the one-day class on how to be a prompt engineer.
Of course it does.
And now that we've all said it, if our phones are near, they will show up on our walls on LinkedIn and Facebook.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think I like being a regular old engineer myself. Well, maybe not the old part so much, but how about just a regular engineer?
A release train engineer?
Oh, no.
No, I don't want to be that guy. That's awful close to production. I prefer to be at the other end of things.
I don't know. I'm still a fan of safe. All right. Burnout. So I sent you a graph, and for those of you, I'll throw in a link to McKinsey does the year in charts. And one of the charts was on burnout. And I'd like to explore whether or not burnout's a real thing and whether or not it's basically overplayed. We'll start there and then we'll go somewhere else with it. Because we always go somewhere else with everything.
For me, when I looked at that graph, I remember going through it, and it was really interesting to see each individual country and then different continents. And I got a good chuckle, but not a ha-ha chuckle. It was more like kind of ho-ho on how in North America, us Canadians, we're burnt out compared to everyone else. I think we ranked high in every category between us, the US, and Mexico. And I think with what we're experiencing here, not just with work, but with everything else going on politically and such, I think it is a real thing. Like people I've talked to, they like a couple of my friends, even last night when I was at my jiu-jitsu club, talking with my best friend, he's burnt out. He just going through everything. I think everyone's just looking forward to possibly taking at least a few days off just for the holidays. So I think here, the numbers that are shown and kind of my experience and other people's experience, I think it's a real thing.
So when you use the term burnout, what does that mean to you, Jeremy?
To me, it's a mix between you feel completely drained, but your anxiety is high. And that's just even draining it even more. So it's you're tired, but you're anxious. You're stressed or you're stressed to the point, but you don't want to do anything. Like it's really like there's kind of like a yin yang type of thing here where it's just almost doesn't make any sense. And you're kind of stuck in the middle and you're kind of indecisive on where to go and what to do because you just don't know what to do.
A feedback loop.
Yeah.
How much of that is the how much of that is organization based and how much is that just life? And is there a connection between that or a misinterpretation or an interpretation of it? Maybe we could call motivation. How is all that connected, or even is it?
I would also add personality, individual personality. Yeah. Throwing that into the mix.
There's some people. I worked with a guy. Okay, I go strong for a lot. I'm a very focused person. That's why 20 books are out. And I go for a long time. I don't take breaks. I don't need them until one day. That's it. I got to go to the rear for a while and take a break. I worked with a guy. I told him he was the shovel that never needed resharpening. I had to go take some time off. It was always like that. So your point of personality, I think that's spot on. I mean, he's at the far end of one of the things. I don't think I'm at the other end, but I'm obviously not where he is.
Is he still alive?
Yeah. I really don't know how he does it. Maybe he drinks heavily. That'd be my first guess. Sorry.
I mean, I'll concur with the definition of burnout that Jeremy number one gave, and I think I'll agree with the personality thing. When I hear people tell me that they're burned out, I always jump to it being a holistic thing. Like, it's not just what's happening at work in a given moment, but it's the accumulation of work, personal life, whatever's going on in news headlines. I think all of those things play a part in that general feeling. But I also think that you own your own burnout. I think that everybody owns their own level of burnoutedness. So if you need to do what Mr. Quigley just described and take a break and detach, or what Jeremy number one was describing, that's on you. I don't know that employee burnout is something that I know it's a popular thing now for companies to talk about how they're trying to shift more work-life balance so that people don't feel as burned out. But I think at the end of the day, you probably find a lot of people working in those companies that still feel burned out, whether it's because of the corporate environment or the accumulation of everything. So, I'm a firm believer that people own their own burnout.
Yeah, I think that's true. And for me, I just don't detect it's coming until it's already in my lap, and I wonder how much is thwarted aspiration too. You get a job, you have a career, you have an idea where your career is going, and you see no progress on this path in spite of your best efforts. The reason there are 20 books out there is because I worked at a company they put me in a spot, and that's it. And I'm like, I have 2 master's degrees, I have an engineering degree, I've seeded 7 patents. I am putting everything over there in a bucket that would make somebody look at me, I thought, look at me and go, this is somebody that we should be helping in through our organization, but that's not what happened. So I got to the point that I'm like, you know what? This is not a career. This is a job. I'm going to treat it just like a job. It's not going to stress me. I'm not going to stress them either. This is what I think might look good. But if you want to do exactly opposite of that, I'm right there for you. And if it fails, I probably won't say, if only somebody could have called it and let you know that this would have been a problem. Essentially, it was I don't know if that's burnout. It's a kind of a checkout.
Yeah. Is that different?
I don't know.
If you're burned out, you can check out.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's how this works.
I mean, Keis has been my people person, or at least the mindset person in some conversations relatively recently. Checkout, burnout, same thing or different, Keis?
I think it's different. I think that it's what Jeremy too said, burnout will lead to checkout. It will come to a point that you're constantly burning out and you're trying to give more and more and more. And then, you realize then there's nothing more to give. And then at that point you check out. But I do think that yes, you are in control of your own burnout, but I think taking life or throwing life into the equation, your personal life, it's when you start thinking about, well, my work is something that I can control. And I'm doing air quotes here, right? And maybe it's not, but you think it's at your control and it's something that you can change and it's something that you can make better. So you try to give more and more and more. And then you reach that threshold where the company or the organization is taking more, right? So you're the giver, they're the taker. And then they keep taking and taking and you keep giving because you think that by giving, they're going to see that you're better or you can do this or that. And again, it goes back to control. You think you're controlling that because you are still giving them something. They're not asking you. It's you who are giving them something, right? So you have to be very careful with that balance. Is it something that you're doing because of something else? Are you taking that action because of something else going on in your life? Are you trying to prove something? Where are you in your life? Or is it because it's just too much work for that specific role that you're in, too much responsibility, and then you need to have a conversation of what can we trade off? But I don't know if it's more of a personality and a human thing rather than a organization thing.
I think they're probably intertwined. Jeremy Berriault, I can't. I don't remember the sub numbers for y'all. You relatively recently left the corporate world and joined the world of itinerant consultants.
Welcome to the tents.
So is it as Keis has described, and is that why you moved down that path, or do you not recognize that?
I think for me personally, when I decided to kind of, I guess, cross that bridge, part of it was a lot throughout my career. I progressed in my career. I got from executive to senior executive to C-suite. And every time I would get in there, it would be like the first couple of years is awesome. This is great. I would go. And then I would get bored because it would just kind of stagnate, it would plateau. And after some advice from a very good friend of mine that I met in 2013 and been on his podcast for the past 10 years, I decided to go out on my own. Now, going out on your own a couple months before a global pandemic probably wasn't the best decision or best timing I ever had. Yeah, I think it was more, it wasn't that I burnt out or checked out. It was I started to check out because I just got bored. And for me, it's a little bit, I see it as a little bit different because you could just go hard, and then you just burn yourself out, and then boom, everything just shuts down. And it's not that really that you checked out. It's just you shut down. Nothing's going to happen. For me, especially for martial arts, I'm into martial arts. I compete in jiu-jitsu. Still at 50 years old, I compete in jiu-jitsu. And I've had matches where I have gone through all the planning, all the rigmarole, all the training. I had my game plan in place. And then once, like 30 seconds into a match, something does not go the way I did. And then my brain just checks out. It's done. No more game plan. Take the loss and away we go. So for me, it's the constant excitement. And like, I've been going heavy and hard for the past 4 years. I started going on my own in 2019. It's 2023, almost the end of 2023. I haven't slowed down. I've written one book. I'm about to finish my second one. I've been working hard on myself and the company to move forward. And again, 4 years straight. I don't even think I'm going to burn out anytime soon. And if I do, I take a 24-hour sleep and then I wake up the next day and I'm good.
And you're connected to the work, I think. You don't have to worry about somebody noticing the work. You are the work. And if you don't notice what you're doing, you really have a problem. You're probably not going to be very successful.
If you don't notice what you're doing, I think there's some other serious issues.
Yeah, I think you need to hang this whole living in a tent thing up right now because you're not going to make it.
But I think you hit the nail on the head, Jon. It's the connection to the work. If you're connected to the work, it's much easier to avoid being burned out because you enjoy it. You're energized, to use Jeremy 1 as I was hand cued. So that works. Let's.
If I can interject just a sec, Tom. If you have aspirations that may not be achieved in the corporate world, that alone, leaving the possibility of, hey, I might actually be able to achieve the things that I want to achieve in my, you can't see it, but I'm air quoting career. Versus if I have a job in a company, then I know that the propensity is going to be, I don't have nice hair, and I'm not 20 something, and doesn't matter how many degrees, I'm a good engineer and this kind of thing. That's the bucket I'm going to be playing in perpetuity, it seems. I no longer have this constraint on me. I have a lot more constraints monetarily, but I don't know where this ends. I might actually end up with something cool working with these folks that I'm working with to build these things, and that alone is quite motivating, rather than you getting up every day. What am I building? I'm building something for somebody else. They'll probably get a lot of credit for it. I will save them a lot of money, and they'll not even know it was me.
It's a connection to the work. I think we've nailed that. Before we start to wrap up, what are you excited for in 2024?
I'll go first happily. The book that we wrote is coming out in January. I know this is the second time I've plugged that, but
And what's the name of this book?
Mastering Work Intake. That is the name of the book. It's got a cool, Japanese artwork inspired cover. You'll be hearing a lot about it on the podcast. You've heard a lot about it on the podcast. I'm sure you'll see a lot of it on social media too. So that's exciting for me in 2024. My day job continues to be really exciting. I enjoy it thoroughly. I am part of the corporate world still. I'm not living in tents with John Quigley, but
good on you, man. Good on you.
I thoroughly do enjoy going to work, whether it's physically commuting to the office and spending time with people in real life, or sitting up here in my attic and connecting remotely with people.
Other than reading Mastering Work.
Yes, that's what I'm looking forward to. January. You know what? I don't know yet. I like not knowing. I like the surprises that 2024 is going to bring. So I'm the person that over plans maybe everything in my life. So in 2024, I'm looking forward to letting go a little bit and see what 2024 brings. So I don't know yet.
Why do you think letting go is going to help?
Again, I'm a person that tries to control everything. So I think it's going to help me it's going to be anxious in the beginning for sure. Mm-hmm. But that's going to alleviate the anxiety as time goes by, to let go of things a little bit. Just let them run their course.
When you plan a lot, I know we have to, but when you plan a lot, that leaves little room for serendipity.
Yeah.
And the alignment of things, you probably won't even notice it because you have all these things scripted out and planned out. And maybe that is actually a good move. I think it's time for me to plug mine too. I got 2 out this year, one in March and one just came out. It's actually, you can only get the digital version of it right now, but it's a test verification and validation dictionary for SAE.
Cool. What's coming out in 2024?
That one. Well, it's out already, but the hard copy will be available in the beginning of 2024. But a risk management book I wrote with Glenn Alleman is coming out in the beginning. I think it's January. It's available. It's on Amazon right now, but the cover art's just not right. So, I think it's February, end of February that's available.
So have you ever physically met Glenn?
I have had chats with him, video chats with him. I've never physically met with him. I'm thinking about making a tour across the states to go visit my kid who's left North Carolina now and is working in Oregon. And I'm thinking about lining it up so I could visit all these folks that I've been working with or talking to for years, Tom Cagley, and have not ever met.
No, Someday over the rainbow, I'm going to get a Class B van. At least I heard that today from someone. And perhaps we'll drive around and do the same thing.
I think we're taking our tent.
There you go. There you go. Well, hey, at least you already have a tent.
Yeah, exactly. You just need to, tear it down, put it in the back, drive on.
Mr. Berriault, what are you looking forward to in 2024?
I think for me, the second book coming out, working with the publisher on when we're actually going to get this out. So far, the plan is around February, looks like now.
Name?
I think Beyond Frameworks. There is a second part of it. I just can't think of it right now.
Yeah, well, that's what publishers put so they can get all the frickin' keywords. There's a second line to almost everyone. And they just cram them with keywords.
So Beyond Frameworks, looking towards early 2024 to be finished. We're about, I think we're on our third final draft, halfway through that. So cover's done, artwork's done. It's just a matter of just going through the final edits and then copywriting, and then we're off to the races. I think overall, like from a personal perspective, it's, I think more just learning, continue to learn, just keep pushing. Last year, from a competitive perspective, the injury bug just sat on my shoulder for the entire year. So I'm looking forward to next year and getting back into more competition so I don't burn out, so I don't check out. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to next year.
Just to retouch on this burnout thing, all of you have mentioned other things in your life. How important is it to have other things in your life other than just work all the time?
It's imperative.
Yeah.
Very.
Whether it's like exercise or music or family or people, it's imperative.
I didn't think that, and I'm not so smart. I didn't think that up until a few years ago. I was a bass player in a metal band in the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, Dio, go Dio. Yeah, exactly.
How many bass guitars do you actually have right now, John?
I have 3 now. I have a 70s Fender. I have a Kramer, which is a Gibson product, and I just bought a new Jackson. Anyway, when the pandemic hit, I started working from home, and there's some downside from working from home. I really do enjoy the interaction of solving problems with people around me. It did allow me to take time, and my lunch hour would be just a short lunch, and then I'd go plunk on the bass, and I realized I hadn't played since before my kid. That's really terrible. I contacted the drummer and the guitar player from the old days there, and we started planning, hey, let's get together and jam a little bit, if nothing else, and I started playing, and I'm like, I don't know if I had a day job, if I could go into the office, because between the drive and the 9 hours over target plus the drive back home, we're looking at a 10-hour plus 12-hour day, 10 to 12-hour day, depending on how far it is away. I live out in the country. That would put me back in the place where I'm not doing that. And I think to myself, I sacrificed a lot, and I don't think that was a very good idea.
That, I think, is exquisite advice. And, I'm probably like you, John. It took me a long time to figure out that 130 hours a week was probably a bad idea.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm mission focused, and I exclude a bunch of things, and I'm trying to do better. It really has been not great for one's family when you're that kind of personality.
Maybe you and Keis ought to chat occasionally, hold each other accountable, little accountability circle.
Step back,
thing.
Step away from the workload.
Yeah, step away from the plan.
Yeah,
Jeremy 1 and 2, Keis 1, John 1. This has been absolutely marvelous. Thank you again for being part of the Software Process and Measurement Cast family. And I enjoy your company. I enjoy the conversations. They never go, as I think even I wish Susan had been able to join. But as Susan has pointed out, we might have an idea where we want to start, but we have no clue where we're going to end, because we're all really interesting and dynamic people and bring a lot to the table. And I think that's the value that we bring with the podcast and all the other things that we've been doing together. So again, thank you. And hey, 2024 will be an interesting year.
Definitely.
I seriously like
Thanks,
chatting
Tom.
with y'all for sure. Tom, I'm glad to be part of this.
You're welcome.
It's great fun.
If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?